25 inshallah. Yes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Chapter 25. What is said about markets? Hadith number 1009, narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, an army will invade the Kaaba, and when the invaders reach al-Bayda, all the ground will sink and swallow the whole army. I said, O Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, how will they sink into the ground, while amongst them will be their markets, the people who work in business and not invaders, and the people not belonging to them? The Prophet ﷺ replied, all of those people will sink, but they will be resurrected and judged according to their intentions.
Now, this hadith, of course, there are a number of hadiths afterwards in the same chapter, but we will take it hadith by hadith so that we will not be confused. The chapter's title is What is Said About Markets. So the Bukhari, may Allah have mercy on his soul, collected a number of hadiths that mention the word markets, which is not a bad thing, but it's not also a good thing. It's something that's inevitable. Why do we say that it's not a good thing? Because the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, the best of the lands on earth are the masajid, and the worst of lands on earth are the markets, the souk. And we know that whoever enters a souk and says the dua, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd, yuhyi wa yumit, wa huwa hayyun la yamut, biyadihi al-khayr, wa huwa ala kulli shayin qadir, 1 million good deeds will be written, and 1 million sins will be erased. This is something worth saying, which made the scholars dispute what is defined as market. Are the avenues considered to be market? Some say yes, some say no. The definition of market is where bargaining takes place. And when bargaining takes place, a lot of swearing, a lot of lying, a lot of cheating. Here the markets are fixed price. You go and buy and come out. But when you look at the markets, like the malls nowadays, with the fitna, with the haram, with the music, with everything that's going on, it's not far-fetched to say that these are also markets, and inshallah falls under the same category of being the worst places to be on earth. So the Prophet is telling us about an army at the end of time intending to invade the Kaaba. And we know that whoever intends to invade the Kaaba is a kafir. Yani Muslims would invade the Kaaba? La. They would maybe go to fight someone in the vicinity, but not with this specific aim to invade the Kaaba. This can be done only by disbelievers, by kuffar usually. And the Prophet tells us about their fate, and that the earth would collapse underneath them and it would swallow the whole army. So Mother Aisha was confused, because the whole army is not composed of combatants. There are people who are civilians, there are support services, there are wives, children. So the Prophet said, and she mentioned specifically, aswaquhum. Aswaq is the plural of suq, and it can also be the plural of sawaqa. And sawaqa are the common people, so not to do with markets. So the janitors, the slaves, the low-life people who are not considered to be, among the brass holders, the soldiers, the generals, etc., not decision makers, normal people, the people who take care of the cattle or of the horses or of the donkeys or whatever. They are sawaqa. For she is referring to them. So it can be understood as plural of markets, and it can be understood, which is closer to the meaning, that the commoners who are not there to fight, they're just there. So the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that they will be resurrected all according to their intention. So many people say, and this is, this happened maybe 20 years ago, maybe a little bit less. When was the tsunami? 14 is too close. No, much. Maybe 6 or 5. I think 2006 or 5. I think. So when it happened, immediately people jumped the gun and said this is because of their sins. And this is a grave mistake when you generalize. People who were Muslims died. Relatives, I had a colleague in my company that broke down and cried. When we investigated, his whole family, his whole tribe, the whole village was swiped away and died. So this guy now had no one on earth. Literally, no second, third, fourth cousin. The whole thing is gone. So all of a sudden, in overnight, you are left alone. So to come and generalize and say, oh, this is because of their sins, that's a grave mistake. You should not say this. There are disbelievers and they were punished. But what about the Muslims? The Muslims will be resurrected on the day of judgment according to their intention. We don't say it was a punishment for them, because when a calamity strikes, is it a punishment or a test? It's both. It can be both. But those who are infallible, like the prophets and messengers, can we say that it was a punishment? Definitely not. And therefore, it doesn't matter whether it's a punishment or a test for you. What matters is what are you going to do? And as long as you recognize that Allah would hold you accountable to your intention and to your actions and deeds, you have no fear with the grace of Allah. The second hadith.
Hadith 1010, narrated by Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu. While the Prophet ﷺ was in the market.
Khalas. This is the reason he brought the hadith, to prove that the Prophet ﷺ went to the market, which means that it's a halal thing to do. Yes, sir.
While the Prophet ﷺ was in the market, somebody called, "O Abu Qasim." The Prophet ﷺ turned to him. The man said, "I have called to this," i.e. another man. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Name yourselves by my name, but not by my kunya, nickname." In the Arabic world, it is the custom to call the man as the father of his eldest son. An example, Abu Qasim.
So is there is a big bookstore in Saudi in the 90s. Dar Abu Qasim. Abu Qasim Publishing bookstore. So how do we understand this hadith? Name yourselves with my name, but don't give yourselves my nickname. How do we understand this? It was related to his time, alayhi salatu wassalam. So you can call yourself, your sons, Muhammad at his lifetime, but you must not use this nickname, Abu Qasim, because this is only for the Prophet ﷺ at his lifetime. After his death, yes, you can call yourself Muhammad. What's your nickname? Abu Qasim. And the issue of nickname, we've spoke about it a couple of days ago, so I will not repeat this, inshallah. Yes, sir.
Hadith 1011, narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. Once the Prophet ﷺ went out during the day. Neither did he talk to me, nor I to him, till he reached the market of Bani Qaynuqa.
This is why Imam Bukhari brought this hadith. It's mentioning that the market of Bani Qaynuqa. So the issue of an area or a community having markets is normal. The Prophet had it, alayhi salatu wasalam.
And then he sat in the compound of Fatima's house and asked about the small boy, his grandson Al-Hasan radiallahu anhu. But Fatima radiallahu anha kept the boy in for a while. I thought she was either changing his clothes or giving the boy a bath. After a while, the boy came out running, and the Prophet ﷺ embraced and kissed him, and then said, "O Allah, love him and love whoever loves him."
Of course, the Arabic version, Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "I thought she was tulbisuhu sakhaban." This is not mentioned at all because it would take the translator maybe 3-4 lines to explain the meaning of it. So might as well just put clothes on him. Actually, this is a form of a necklace where the Arabs used to give for their children, boys and girls, that had some sort of ornaments. Grunful, شو grunful بالله؟ Huh? No. Grunful. It's a sort of a herb. خلى الشيخ يشوفها الشيخ Google. Not nutmeg, not meg. I always make the mistake on my videos. I say not mug.
Cloves.
Huh?
Cloves.
خلاص alhamdulillah. You know cloves. Okay. This is one of the best medication herbs if you have toothaches. So we call it مسمار احنا. مسمار. أسعد. Hey. So they used to put this in a necklace for the children, along with some beads, along with some oud and musk, so that it gives a very nice smell. So this is why she kept him, because the Prophet, when he went, the Arabic word which was not translated, athamma luka', luka' is a nickname for children, يعني something of making it beautified. And she kept him to wash him, to put this ornament and perfume. And then the Prophet, when he saw him, alayhi salatu wasalam, Al-Hasan himself started running. And this is a feeling only grandfathers find. When the grandchild, and we have a saying in Arabic, ما عزم الولد إلا ولد الولد. Nothing closer to the heart than the son except the son of the son. So even if you have grandchildren and you have sons and daughters, this is what is closer to me. So this is the moment Al-Hasan saw the Prophet, he started running towards him. And the Prophet embraced him, kissed him, and said, "O Allah, I love him. O Allah, love those who love him." And it's not the time to speak about Al-Hasan, may Allah be pleased with him, because he is one of the great companions of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the reformers whom Allah prevented a great war between two factions of the Muslims with his dislike of this dunya. He was the 5th Khalifa. He was the 5th Caliph after Ali for 6 months. And he gave it away so that things would settle down. Nobody does this ever. May Allah be pleased with him. This is why he's one of the 2 master of the youths in Jannah. Yes, sir. Some
some people, they also here in Kuwait, old in India, they use the gold for the boys.
Gold? Yeah, the hadith has no mentioning of gold. Yani, okay, the question would be rephrased. What's the ruling on children wearing gold? If they are females, there's no problem. If they are males, there is problem. Because the Prophet, when he came once to the companions carrying gold and silk, he says, those are halal for the females of my ummah, haram for the males. And males fit the description of before the puberty and after puberty. So there is no, I think, يعني any indication. في شيء ثاني غيرها يعني؟ لأنه ما جاء ذكر الجولد مطلقا. Ornaments يعني الزينة كزينة. Yes sir.
Hadith number 1012, narrated by Nafi'. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu told us that people used to buy food in the caravan in the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Okay, the caravans, one would think that it is a food truck. So the people used to buy food, jazakallah khair, from caravans. What is meant by caravans? It's actually the nomads. So what's al-rukban, the word in Arabic is al-rukban, those who come riding. And what is meant, those who are not locals. And it's referring to the Bedouins, the villagers, the nomads, when they come in the seasons to sell whatever they have, such as ghee, such as wool, whatever they make. Okay.
The Prophet ﷺ used to forbid them to sell it at the very place where they had purchased it.
Who to sell it? Who buyers? Which buyers?
The people from the city.
The locals. So the Prophet ﷺ prohibited them from selling what they bought where they bought it. Okay?
But they were to wait till they carried it to the market where foodstuff was sold. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu said, the Prophet ﷺ also forbade the reselling of foodstuff by somebody who had bought it unless he had received it, all the measure which he has bought in full measure.
Now, this is an important topic. First of all, we have a ruling, and that ruling is that we're not allowed to buy things or goods from people who come to our city until they reach the marketplace. Why would I meet them at the city border? What do you mean by more profit? They don't know. They do not know the prices. So the guy comes in, I said, oh Allah, you want to go to downtown, to the souk? Sheikh, this ghee, barrel of ghee, I'll buy it for this price. The guy says, yeah, ni'ma, alhamdulillah. Not knowing it's 3 times more. So this is restriction number 1. And there are many hadiths covering this area. That you are not allowed to buy at the city limits until the seller goes to the market and sees the price himself. Because that would be cheating him. This is cheating the individual. Number 2, there is an Islamic ruling which many people don't know of, and it translates to Arabic as follows: al-kharaj bil-daman. 2 words. Kharaj meaning the profit. Bil-daman meaning by guarantee. What does it mean? Now, imagine this is something of value, and I buy it from the brother. Until now, it's in his custody. It's in his possession. If it were to be burnt on the spot, I did not receive my goods. Who will be in charge for paying for it?
The person holding it.
The person who has it, because I have not received it. This is why scholars say you, the buyer, cannot sell it until you have full acquisition of it. Why? Because if you sell it when he has it and I have no liability, if it's burnt, if it's lost, if it's stolen, I have no liability. My money is with him. I will take my money back. So if I were to sell it while he has it, this means that it's $100 for 120 profit, $20, and this has nothing to do with it because it did not exchange hands. This is why number 3, Hadith Hakim ibn Hizam, do not sell what you do not possess. And this eliminates a lot of dispute. So these are 3 things. Don't tell me repeat them because I just made them up. So I'm not going to repeat them. Number 4, which is also important, the seller. How much, ya Sheikh? He says $100. I buy. He said, I sold. He still has it. And immediately in front of him, the brother says, whoa, this is a good thing. How much? I said, 120. He said, I buy. I said, I sell. What will happen to him? $20 I've lost on the spot? No. That's why the Prophet prohibited selling the food when you buy it until you take it to the market. Or at least take it in your own possession, in your warehouse. And this brings us to the 5th issue, which is this a general trend or only in foods? Imam Shafi'i says it's only in foods. Imam Abu Hanifa says anything that you can weigh or measure with size. Other scholars say in everything except in property. Why? He said property, you cannot take your building you bought and shift it elsewhere. But the most authentic opinion is that you have to have possession. Now sometimes in Saudi, I don't know about here, when I import a car from America, it's in the customs. They give me a piece of paper because it doesn't have license plates yet. But this piece of paper is the car. So if I have it, I have the car. So if I go to you and sell it to you and give you this piece of paper, this is acquiring because it's in my possession. I can circulate it. So the most authentic opinion is that you do not sell anything until it comes in your possession as a guarantee. And that is why a lot of the mortgage systems in banks, quote unquote Islamic banks, is haram. I see a property, a very beautiful villa. I don't have cash. I go to the bank. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam. Talabna bunayya, jana ghulam. I want to buy this property. How much? 1 million riyal. By the way, there is nothing sold in Saudi Arabia with 1 million riyal. That was old. Al-Hin, the plot, empty plot is 1 million. Everything is rocketing sky high, unfortunately. Especially, alhamdulillah. So, الخفجي خلها تيجي بس الله يبارك. So I will go to the bank. Akhi, I'd like to buy this property, 1 million riyals. The bank has no problem. If I told him I want to marry a mermaid, he said, no problem. How much you want? All what he wants is a commitment. So he says, okay, here is a check of 1 million riyal. You return it 1.25 over the duration of 20 years. Khalas, bismillah. This is not halal. Why? The bank did not own this. Okay, we will expand a little bit on the issue of mortgages. So that people, a lot of them need this. So what does the bank do? You go to the bank, Islamic banks. You said, no, we don't lend you money. We will buy it on your behalf. Jazakumullah khair. This is Islamic. Okay, now you have to sign the following documents. 1, 2, 3, 10, 20. Ya Allah, all these documents I have to sign? Yes. What are these? Number 1, that you pledge that you will buy this from us after we buy it. But you don't have it yet. Why do I pledge? Because if we buy it and then you say, I change my mind, you will pay a penalty of XYZ. And this way, this penalty compensates us for buying it for 1 million. Maybe you can sell it for 950. No problem. Because we already penalized you. But this is haram because there is no transaction yet. Some of them say, no problem. We will buy it. But you have to pay us a deposit of 5%. Deposit of what? Of the house. But you don't possess the house. Yeah, but it's a deposit. So once we buy it, we know that you are doing this for certain. I personally called Sheikh bin Baz and bin Uthaymeen personally on the phone and asked them about this. Said haram totally. They must not take any guarantees from you that you are going to buy it, because then it is not selling what they possess. This is making sure that they're forcing you to buy it from you. And they cannot take any down payment. So what is to be done? Islamically, there is a way out. And this way out is khiyaru shart, which we spoke about, the choice of declining the transaction or going through it while we are in the gathering. So one way is that the bank sees this property, 1 million, give me 2 weeks please. They go and they do their due diligence. They check in the market, they go to real estate agents, how much is this? So 950 to 1,050,000. Okay, 2, 3, 4, they think that the price is fair. Then they go and speak to the owner. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. We would like to buy this property, and here is a check of 1 million riyals, but we have the choice for a whole month. If we don't want it, we call the deal off. He says, okay, I'm happy. So in this 1 month, who owns this? Khalas, I paid for it, and the bank. I paid for it, and the guy has the money, but I have the right to decline in 1 month time, or 1 week usually, because the guy is not going to wait for me 1 month and with the 1 million, he'll be in the Bahamas. So I go to the customer as a bank, say, Akhi, I've got the property. You want it? If the guy changed mind or found another property, he says, not interested. Okay, salam alaikum. No harm done. Ma'as-salama. I go back to the owner, or I look for someone, because I've done my due diligence and it is a good property. I'll find 5 or 10 people who are more interested in buying it. Either way, I'm safe. So this is one of the ways that is to be done in a halal way. Now, there is a prevailing method in the West. It is called diminishing ijara. إيش هذا diminishing ijara? To diminish is to go little by little down. What happens? It is me who's interested in buying this property having 2 hats. A hat of an owner and a hat of a tenant. So I come to this property, 1 million riyals. I don't have cash. So I go to the financial institute and I say, Assalamu alaikum. Akhi, I'm interested in buying this. I can afford 100,000. And I'd like to make a company with you to own this property. They do their due diligence. They look around, say, yeah, this deserves 1,200,000, and it's a profitable property. Okay, we're into it. So I pay 10%, they pay 90%. Who's the owner? The company. I take off my landlord hat of 10% and put my tenant hat. And I go to the company and I say to the financial institute and to myself, I'd like to rent this for a number of years. It has to be fixed. Let's say 2 to 3, not more, because rents go up and down. So what is the rent usually? It's 100,000 a year. So I go to this company, I say, I would like to rent this from you, but I'll top it off by 10% or 15% according to what we negotiate, so that after giving you 1 year, 2 year, and the 3rd year, you will allocate 10% from your ownership, 90% to me. So I will be now owner 20 and you will be owner 80. By this, and by the end of 15 years, 20 years, I will be fully owning the property. The bank would be utilizing their 90%, they will getting profit, they are making everything. So it's a win-win or not? It's a win-win. What are the loopholes? Number 1, in the West, a lot of the companies just use the outer shell, but they use the riba-based ways to cheat people. So they say, okay, I'm willing to do that. But if you do this or if you do that, there are penalties. Penalties are riba. No good. What they do else, they say, okay, the insurance, the tenant has to pay it. Insurance of the property, why would anyone insure who's the beneficiary of the insurance? If the house was burned to the ground, who will be the beneficiary? The owner. So why am I paying the insurance? I pay the insurance, I benefit. You want to benefit, you have to. And usually it's the landlord, unless it's in Britain, I think. It's in Britain, I think in the contract they say that the tenant has to. I'm not sure. People in Britain, they know. The third problem is that the company, financial institution, myself, don't want to be a true landlord. Meaning, we've rented this, I've leased this property from the company. The ceiling is leaking. Who's responsible to fix it? No. Everywhere in the world, if there is a leakage, if there is a manufacturer defect, who fixes it? The landlord. So I go to them and say, no, you're living there. You'll be owning it after 20 years. Akhi, I'm a tenant. This is my hat. Look at it. Listen, tenant. I don't pay anything. You have to. And they don't want to. So again, it's un-Islamic. Some may do this and they fulfill all the conditions. If this is the case, why do we say 3 years max, maybe 4? Because prices go up and down. So maybe it goes so down, but you're paying a very high rent. That wouldn't be rent. So they will be misusing you. And sometimes it go too high, it would be too much for you. We have to balance this up, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Shall we continue? Yes, sir.
Shaykh, today I came to know there is another Islamic financing for the housing. It's based on the musharaka. It's like the 50% or the 40% bank will pay, and the 60% the customer will pay. They have some of the societies, they both go there and they sign the contract with that, and the 50 or 60% the customer will pay, 40% with the bank. Now in this case, the 40% can be in the installments. The price is fixed, and after that I also came to know that if there will be any delay in the installment, there will be penalty, and penalty will be
charity.
Yes, to the charity. So I just want to know.
No, I don't. The first description goes with what I've just described, I think. The musharaka is considered to be diminishing ijara. Any penalty over late penalty is haram. It's riba. What is the penalty on delaying the payment? And what is this called in Islam? Nasi'ah. The delay. You know that we've mentioned in the beginning, riba al-fadl and riba al-nasi'ah. So this penalty is for delaying the payment. You did not pay it today because you're going to pay it after 1 week. You have to pay us an increased amount of X and Y, Z. This is totally haram. Now they play with it, say, okay, we will take this, but we will not take it for ourselves. We'll give it to charity organizations. It doesn't make any difference. You give it to me, you take it. As long as you took it from my own money and added it to the payment I had to pay, this becomes